welcome to another episode of Sum of Our Parts, the podcast where two friends talk about the movies that add up to make us who we are. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Jim. And this week it was Lindsay's pick. And Lindsay, what did you select for us this week?
I had us watch a favorite of mine from my high school years, as I keep returning to. It is a movie from 2007, so it came out my senior year of high school. It's called Juno.
So I had heard of the movie. I have never seen the movie, but understood it was critically acclaimed
Hmm.
and very well received. So, and I'm assuming you saw it in movie theaters.
Yes, definitely. I saw it with my friends.
Okay, all right. And this again, like I said, so this was the first time I'd seen it. So I'm assuming then it made a big impression on you when you first saw it.
Yeah. I think that it was, I think, a cool teen movie that felt relatable in a different way. Obviously, I keep picking teen movies. I think this one, a lot of those feel like heightened, and this one, I think the like quirkiness is dialed up a little bit. But I do think there's a lot of it that does feel a little bit more, maybe like to me, because I'm not
Mhm.
like Mean Girls and like Clueless and Romeo, like those are like heightened, right? But
I
this does feel a little more like grounded. The dialogue, I think, is something that stood out. Like there were so many of these like phrases that we were repeating, and we'll talk about them as we go through. But like some of them still I remember. Like when we were talking about doing this movie, I was like, they still come to mind. And then I think the soundtrack too. It was a pretty successful soundtrack, but it was like a very. This was a lot of music that I liked at the time
okay.
was of like this kind of indie pop like genre. So that really appealed as well. So I think in a lot of ways, like I think this is the first thing I had seen Elliot Page in. Michael Cera, I think, was like I didn't watch Arrested Development, so like Super Bad and this movie were like Michael Cera
Hmm.
came to my awareness. So like a lot of good people, and then a lot of good like they're like the sort of teen actors, but like the adults as well, which we'll talk
Hmm.
about, were like really good. So, and I think it's like a good balance of like funny and sort of sweet. Still has some like, like difficult stuff in it. And I think all of that in combination just made it feel like even if like, I was not pregnant in high school, I knew there were plenty of girls in my school that were, but like I think just like the being at that like phase of life and
Hmm.
like coming to understand like relationships and like other people and like your place in the world and like it's I think like those pieces of it felt like relatable, and I think like watching it again now I can see and like reflecting I can see like how that appealed to me, right? Because it's now been like almost 18 years since it came out, which is like, oh.
So you talked about that there were girls in your high school and stuff. So like when you saw this for the first time, was this relatable to you though? I mean, this happens in real life to
Mhm.
you. Okay, so I just
Yeah.
wondered about that.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think it is, yeah, I mean, every like sort of individual situation is a little bit different, but yeah, I think
Uh-huh.
that yeah, like it wasn't strange to see like a girl walking around pregnant in my high school. I
Oh,
remember
okay.
like I have a brother that's much younger than me, so like he was like a year old when this movie came out, and like if I pushed him around in the stroller, people are looking at me like, oh, they're looking at me like they were looking at Juno.
Like, what you've ruined your life. You've
Exactly.
yeah. So.
But yeah, there were plenty of pregnant girls in my high school, and it was like, wow,
Hmm.
that's wild.
And I was going to say, so when you saw it with your friends and so on, though, did you all ever associate? Oh, that's just like so and so, or that?
No, I'm the like my high school is very different than like this one. This is like it takes place in Minnesota, and like it's like a predominantly like white high school in Minnesota, and I went to a predominantly black high school in like Maryland suburbs. So I think just like the overall vibe at my school was very different
Those those don't
than
have a lot in common. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
strangely no. But
Shocked, shocked.
no, we didn't. I don't think we associated with any particular person.
Oh,
But
okay.
it was just like a thing that like, there were girls
Yeah.
who were pregnant. There was a girl at my eighth grade graduation going into high school who was pregnant. Yeah.
Hello. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So,
But yeah, I think that I don't know, maybe it like made us less like judgmental about it.
well, maybe. So, did any of you? So, did any of you all date the track star in high
Um,
school?
I don't think so. One of my friends was on the track team.
Oh,
So she
okay.
was like Polly Bleeker.
Polly Bleeker. She was the Polly Bleeker
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
of your high school. So,
Not the shorts weren't so short though.
what? So the, and you and I have talked about this. So it still seems to me a lot of this looked like this could have been from my high school days back in the 70s. This is
Yeah.
what we wore shorts that short. I mean, not
Hmm.
because we were scandalous. That was just the way. If you ever watch the NBA from
Hmm.
the 1960s and the 70s, and you know what I'm saying. So
Yep.
if people, oh, yeah, we and the high tube socks. That's what we called them, the
Hmm.
high tube socks it was like it. But I swear to you, I was like, is this movie supposed to be taking place in the 70s or is it to 2000? And we've talked about this before. You said everything just goes in cycles.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Like the early 2000s are just a repeat of the
of
70s.
the 70s,
Even
evidently, because
down to like, and I think we talked about this, like the you wear a short sleeve shirt over a long sleeve shirt.
hmm exactly. Yep.
Always.
And the bell bottom jeans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The flared leg jeans. I mean, that was,
Yep. Yep. And like
something.
puka shell necklace,
Oh yeah,
the
yeah,
sort of
yep.
like frosty eyeshadow colors.
Oh yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
always,
Anyway,
always circling back. Always circling back. But
what
it's
it is it fair to say that Juno was uh would you call it grunge? Sort
yeah,
of
I would say a little more grunge.
grunge.
This
Okay.
is sort of like honestly like I kind of dress like Juno in high school, like a lot of hoodies, t-shirts, like flare jeans,
Yeah,
I think.
okay.
My
Flannels. Did you
music
wear
taste, yeah, yeah, my music taste wasn't as cool as hers. I was listening to like current pop punk music and like indie music, but I think probably
flan
similar style wise. But
oh,
yeah,
wouldn't that
yeah.
what that's what she listened to. I
But
mean,
she
wasn't
said
it?
she liked like Iggy Pop and the Stooges and
Oh,
like
we're up like from the 60s and
the
stuff. Yeah.
Runaways and
Yeah. So
but yeah,
my generation. So
yeah, yeah. I just love that part where she was like, "Oh, obviously the best year for music is 77. You don't understand because you weren't there." And he's like, "You weren't alive."
you weren't alive exactly. So yeah, that I thought about that because in some instances I have to agree. A lot of
But
music after 1979 doesn't appeal to me. So
mhm,
sorry, sorry,
fair.
sorry,
Uh,
sorry.
I think that I do wonder if like everyone feels like the music that was out when they were in high school is like the best era of music because like I was talking to my younger brother recently and we were on vacation, like music's being played and it's like all music from when I was in high school and college. So I'm like, obviously it's gone downhill since then if they have to play all the music from when I was in high school and college.
Well, I still listen to music from the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. Now, I went to school during, high school in the 70s, but yeah, maybe I think that's the case, because I have a niece who is approximately well, a little bit older than you, and her music tastes are much different from mine, but
Hmm. Hmm.
like you though, she appreciates the music that I listen to,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
because, it's still resonates. But anyway,
Yeah.
so
But yeah, so Juno, as you talked about, like it was a the reception was good. Like it was box office success, critical success. It was nominated for 4 Oscars. Best Original Screenplay, which it won. It was also nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actress. At the time, obviously, Elliot Page was identifying as woman.
mhm.
And just also as like a disclaimer, we'll, and if we mess up, it's obviously unintentional, but like we'll refer to the actor Elliot Page as he, but the character Juno is a girl, so we'll say
Right.
she when we're talking about Juno. So
Okay.
just
Yeah,
putting that out
exactly.
there
So yeah,
for
no,
the
no.
listeners.
Yep. We're not here. Yeah, we're just talking about the movie, and in the movie, Juno is a young teenage girl. So,
Yep.
um, although I
So
like the name, and and we hear the story behind the name. So
yeah, yeah, it is like a cool name.
it
And I
is.
do love
So
when I do love when she goes to the abortion clinic and they're like, she's like Juno McGuff, and she's like, this lady thinks this is a fake name, but it's
or
just
they
so
go
funny.
like the city? No.
No, I did love
No.
that too when Jason Bateman says that, and she doesn't give any explanation. She just says no.
No. Yeah. It's like yeah, and he looks bewildered. So
Yes, yes. So, well, the movie is directed by Jason Reitman. Jason Reitman, son of uh, also another iconic director, Ivan Reitman.
Ivan, yeah.
And
So
so Ivan Reitman, like, you know, Ghostbusters, Stripes, Kindergarten Cop, Twins.
uh, uh,
He produced Animal House.
I mean, classic comedies to me, for the
Yes.
most part. And the apple didn't fall far from the tree as far as I think as far as directing.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely. Yeah. Jason Reitman, he is a writer and director. So he wrote and directed Thank You for Smoking,
that's on
Up
my
in the
list.
Oh, nice. Up in the Air, which George Clooney, and
On my list.
and he's directed a lot of movies that Diablo Cody, who wrote this movie, wrote, like Young Adult and Tully. He also recently directed, most recently, Saturday Night, which is the movie about like the first episode of Saturday Night Live.
Oh,
And he directed one of the recent, they started making Ghostbusters movies again. So he directed
mm-hmm.
Ghostbusters Afterlife. He didn't direct the Frozen Empire one, but he did write it. So
Oh, okay. So
he's keeping the Ghostbusters thing going. Uh,
that's never a bad thing. So
yes, yes.
that's a
So
franchise that I do enjoy. So
yes, I have Ghostbusters on my list. I might have Ghostbusters 2 on my list actually, even though it's not like good, but I think that might have been the first one I saw. And I
oh,
always the
okay.
pink goo like
Yes.
always stands out to me. This movie is written by Diablo Cody. Just so you know, that's not her real name. Her real name is Brooke
That's,
Mario.
that's gonna say.
Um, but
Gotta admit, it's a
she
good one though,
it is
even
a
though it's a
good pen
fake name.
name.
So,
Yeah.
and I'm
As
sorry,
far
you
as pen
are
names go, it's a
Diablo
good one. Yeah.
Cody. So,
Yeah. The Academy Award goes to.
exactly.
So she won it because she wrote the screenplay of this movie, but she actually started as a blogger and she wrote a memoir about her time as a stripper called Candy Girl: A Year in the Life of an Unlikely Stripper. But then Juno was her first like motion picture script, which is like kind of crazy. But she has also written Jennifer's Body, Young Adult, Ricky and the Flash, Tully, Lisa Frankenstein, which is the most recent movie that came out.
Okay.
Um, she created and wrote the television show United States of Tara, which is the one where Toni Collette is the woman with dissociative identity disorder. She has multiple personalities.
Okay. Okay.
And she wrote the book, so like the lines for the Alanis Morissette musical Jagged Little Pill that's been on
Mm-hmm.
Broadway. She wrote the book for
Oh,
it.
the
So that's what they
book.
call it, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And
there's
I
a
think she won a
talented.
Tony for it, actually.
Well, there you go. So,
So
so she's
she,
halfway to the EGOT.
yeah, she's got the ot. So she's no slouch, Diablo Cody.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
A
so
person of many talents,
definitely,
not
definitely.
unlike my partner.
Well, thanks. Thanks. I'm starting I have a blog, so maybe
I, I,
maybe what I
I.
need to do is do something unexpected and write a memoir about it. And
So
then that's where I'll continue to uh go from. But
for our listeners who don't see us, I was making encouraging movements to my partner when she was reading about that person, about how she started out as a blogger. So,
yeah. So also too, before we get into the movie, the soundtrack, as we mentioned, topped the charts at the time. A lot of like kind of indie pop, a lot of Kimya Dawson for people who are familiar with her and like in various kind of twosomes. So
Sorry,
I wrote
I
down a
didn't
lot
know
of the
any of these, but
songs.
I did like the songs.
Yeah,
So,
just because like they always like stand out to me. Some of them I like remember like the snippets that you hear. So I wrote the titles. So I'll shout them out as we go through the movie, just because they are like I think a significant part of like the experience of watching Juno. Like it is a very
hmm
specific like the mood. I think is it creates. You know what I mean? Do you feel like that way? Like the
yeah.
vibe of it.
No, you're exactly right because, like I said, I wasn't familiar with any of the songs, but it really suited the motion, the movie, and the theme and everything. It
Mhm.
sort of blended it all in together without being overbearing or anything. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
agreed.
yeah, I liked it. To the point where I looked it up because you had talked about the soundtrack when we mentioned the movie before when you selected it, and as I was watching the movie, I thought, oh, I need to find out more about,
Mhm.
about this. So yeah, it was good. So
Yeah. Well, shall we talk about the movie?
we shall.
Okay. So the passage of time is marked by the season being written on screen. So at the beginning, it says autumn. And we see Juno is chugging from a big old jug of Sunny D, which is also Sunny D being like feels very particular. Like that was such like a childhood like memory of mine is Sunny Delight.
Sunny Delight. So
Yeah. So, and she's looking at this chair outside, and she says she does some voiceover narration throughout the movie. It started with a chair, and cut to it's her and Polly Bleeker having sex, and it's kind of like awkward and like clearly sort of like fumbling first time kind of stuff happening,
hmm
and it's like she's having this sort of like recollection of this moment, and then this dog starts barking. She's like, geez, banana, shut your freaking gob, okay? And I do love that because it's like this is like the vibe immediately.
yes. Yeah, it
Uh,
starts out right away. It's like, yeah, it's not a sledgehammer, but it's not a gentle nudge either. So
yeah, definitely. It takes you out, but it's like, oh. And before we move on, I'll just say Juno, as we discussed, is played by Elliot Page. Elliot Page was in the movie Hard Candy, X-Men: The Last Stand, and X-Men: Days of Future Past. Whip It, which is another good movie. I might also have that on my list. It's about roller derby. Drew Barrymore
oh,
directed it. Yeah.
don't know that one.
It's a cool movie.
Mm.
Elliot Page is also in Inception as Ariadne, the architect, and also did a show not that long ago on I think it was on Viceland called Gaycation, just like going to different countries and seeing like what the sort of how they are towards like the LGBT community and like what the like gay community looks like in different countries. It's an interesting
Oh,
show.
okay.
Um, and Polly Bleeker is played by Michael Cera from Superbad, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Arrested Development, Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. This is the End. In Barbie, more recently.
Oh, he was in Barbie.
Yeah, he's Alan, who's like one of the like
Oh,
not
the
Kens, but like I
not
guess
Ken's.
Alan was like another like male doll that they made like at one point, like way back.
Okay.
And then as we move on, as I mentioned, I'm going to keep calling out the songs. And some of them are like older songs, actually. Like the next one that plays is All I Want Is You by Barry Lewis Polisar, which is a song from the 70s. It's like, if I was a flower going wild and free, I wanted you to be my sweet honeybee. So it's a little like folky.
Yeah, I remember
Uh,
that song.
and I like this as it's sort of like this cartoon opening. Like
Mm.
it looks like a cartoon slash like collage, sort of. Like the backgrounds are drawn, but there's like a picture of Elliot Page like sort of collaged on. And it's a cool little animated opening. It reminds me, there was an animated show when I was a kid that had the styles of the characters were similar because it was like a collage called Angela
Uh-huh.
Anaconda. Uh, the people my age will recognize Angela Anaconda, but it reminded me of that. So, anyways, Juno goes to the drugstore and she's clearly been here a couple of times. It's a little like convenience store. She'd been there.
Isn't it like her third time
Yeah, because
that day or
the
something? Or
clerk, the character's name is Rolo, which I don't like. Do we know that? I don't know. But it's played by Rainn Wilson, who people will recognize as Dwight Schrute from The Office.
right?
Uh, and he's like, "You are pregnant. Your ego is you don't need to take another test. Your ego is prego." And he's kind of just like taunting her. And he's like, "You're
It,
pregnant." Like
it,
she was like, I think the plus sign looked a little bit more like a division sign.
yeah,
And he's like, then there's another girl in there, and she's like, you know how you know, like, are your nipples getting real brown? And she's like, anyways, I drank a ton of Sunny D, so I gotta go pronto. Like,
yeah, the
gimme the
key to
key.
the bathroom,
Yeah.
to the lavatory.
Yes. And I think he's like, you better pay for that pee stick you better pay for that test when you're done. Don't think it's yours because you marked your territory or
You
something.
marked your territory. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she comes back out and he's like, what's the prognosis, fertile myrtle minus or plus? And she keeps like shaking it. This is like the dialogue in this scene, like, is burned into my brain. That ain't no etch a sketch. This is one doodle that can't be undid. Like, these
he's
are the things that I
he's
was just,
so quick with this. It's just yeah, and
yes.
it's
Home skillet. He calls her home skillet.
home skillet.
And she's like, I think she says something like, this plus sign, this is the most unholy cross I've ever seen. She pays for that. She buys some licorice, some long licorice, so that when she goes, as she's walking home, she can create a noose out of the licorice.
Yeah, the licorice whips. Isn't that what they used to call
Yes.
them? Licorice whips?
Oh, yeah,
Because
yeah,
they
yeah. To like pretend to hang herself.
yeah, because they were
Um,
like 3 feet long or something, and then
yeah.
she braided them into a hangman's noose. Or
At this time, they're playing the song Tire Swing by Kimya Dawson. Another fun little ditty. It's like, I took the Polaroid down in my room. I'm pretty sure you have a new girlfriend. They really like listening to those really like takes me back. And then she goes to her room, and of course, as any good teenage girl would do, what's the first thing you have to do is call your friends. She has a really interesting room, like a lot of posters, which I think is also that's very like teenage girl.
oh,
But
okay,
she's
I
got
was
a lot
just
of
going
like
to ask you
old
because
like rock bands in her posters.
yeah, the room was pretty much uh, covered in wall to wall and posters and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So yeah, so
And she has a like a corded phone, but it's a hamburger, which like I remember me and my friends thought was the coolest thing. We were like, where do we get a hamburger phone? Apparently from the production company.
evidently, I thought McDonald's had put them out at one point, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe it was
I
just
don't
something that
know.
just a novelty thing. So
Maybe, but yeah,
it was cool looking.
it was so cool. And she calls her boyfriend to tell her, and it's again, it's another just like very quick, like funny conversation because her friend's like Juno, and she's like, "No, it's Morgan Freeman. Do you have any bones that need collecting?" And she goes, "Just the one in my pants," which is like very like, yes, this is the
Yes.
type of conversation I'd have with my friends. But it's Juno says she's pregnant. It's Polly Bleeker's. And her friend is kind of at first like, yeah, whatever. And then she's like, oh no, like for real, for real, for real.
Yeah, for real, for real, for real, for real. Are you
And she's,
real?
I'm faux shiz up the spout, is what she says. And then her friend says, Phuket, Thailand. Um, and then she's like, they sort of immediately discuss, like, okay, you're gonna have an abortion. Which clinic are you gonna go to? It's like Woman Now or the other one, but the other one you have to have a note from your parents. And
Right. There,
this line, I don't think I ever really picked up on, but it's so funny. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to Woman Now because they just like help women now, and just like, but like serious.
yeah. Um, and don't we cut to a paper where she's looking at the ad for woman now or whatever there, or is that later on in the movie where there's an actual ad for the place?
I think well, that might be later when she calls them to
Oh,
schedule the
okay.
appointment.
Oh, that's okay. That's what I'm thinking.
Um, but yeah, so then they go get Leah, the friend, and Juno go to get the chair, or a chair that looks like the chair that was put
That's what
outside.
I was going to ask you. I
Yeah.
couldn't. Is it the chair or is it a chair?
It must not be the chair because it seems like it was at one of their houses, that
Right.
chair. So
So
this must just
it's
be one that like reminds her of it. Like it's maybe it's like the same chair that someone else had.
it's like an old swivel rocker,
Hmm.
loungy Barco lounger. We used to
Hmm.
call them. So
Yeah. So they get the chair and like talk about the whole situation, her feelings for Polly, and she's playing them off, but like obviously her friend's like, you've obviously like been wanting to do this for a while, like, and then
right.
they cut to Polly, who is getting dressed in his running gear, which as we discussed consists of very short shorts, tall socks. He's got the sweatband, he's got the little tank top. He's a cross country runner,
Uh-huh.
and he gets his little breakfast burrito, and he's gonna go out and goes running. And Juno has set up like a full living room in front of his house, so they've got the chair, a tiger rug, and she's pretending to smoke a pipe.
I love that she's got the
Hmm.
pipe and she's actually doing a good job of imitating someone smoking a pipe because
Yeah.
people who don't smoke don't know how to
Hmm.
handle you
Hmm.
know objects and stuff. But she's either studied or watched movies where people know what they're doing.
Hmm. So I love this conversation too. She's like, "Your shorts are looking especially gold today." And he says, "My mom uses color safe bleach." And she goes, "Go Carol." Also, like, there's a brief divergence where she talks about just like when the boys run.
Right. about about what's going on.
Yeah, what's going on in the shorts, we'll
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Um, and then she just comes out with and tells Polly that she's pregnant. And he's like, "Oh, what should we do?" And she's like, I'm gonna nip it in the bud before it gets worse, because I have heard that pregnancy can result in a baby." And he's like, "Yeah, that's what happens when our moms and teachers get pregnant."
hmm
Which is so funny too. That is like how people like
Think of
conceive
right.
of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Like moms and teachers get pregnant?
Not people like us.
No. And then the way she's talking about it as he's getting ready to leave, she's like, it's like you don't have to feel bad because I know like it wasn't your idea for us to have sex. And then she kind of leaves, and he's like, if it wasn't my idea, then like whose was it?
Whose was it? Yeah. So
And then cut to school, we get a little kind of sense of where people are. Juno's like kind of a weird girl, and there's like a jock who is played by I don't remember the actor's name, but he was on the show Degrassi, which is like a Canadian high school show that like Drake was on.
oh, okay.
And so Drake became famous. He played Sean on Degrassi. I don't remember his real name, and I'm not going to look it up. But he's like making fun of her, and it's funny because she's like, he's making fun of me, but he's like into me because jocks like are supposed to be into like the pretty girls, but they're always into like the weird girls with glasses, and like she had a whole just who want to be children's librarians.
Yeah, and it shows her like in a montage of outfits and stuff, and
Yeah,
then and
yeah.
and
It's sort of
and
like a
different.
Barbie being dressed as like she's describing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So
But they're
yeah, I thought
supposed to
that was
like
very clever.
Yeah, they're supposed to like the cute girls, like her friend Leah, who's actually into teachers, and it cut to her talking to a teacher going, "I love Woody Allen." Like, oh my God.
And the teacher is like you said, and an older teacher at that. It's not even
Hmm.
like like there's a 5 year difference between
Right. And this is not like a George Clooney older teacher. This is an old ass man. Like, this isn't like an old, like,
with
ooh, very distinguished, good looking guy.
no no
No,
no
he just
he
looks like
no
old.
he's old and little pudgy,
Yeah.
and but evidently, oh yeah, she's just like giggling all over him and stuff.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Then like Juno and Polly are partners in like chemistry, and it's so they have to work in teams of four, and like they're very cute and have like a great banter, and then they get paired with this couple that's like in the midst of a breakup because the boy visited his brother during like fall break or like Thanksgiving break or something, and she's like, "You cheated because you drank two Smirnoff Ices and like Snow Peak peach flavored boons."
Boone's Farm. I
Yes.
was gonna. And
But just like the
again,
way that like she delivered it, because she would like she does this whole rant. Just you cheated on me because you had two Smirnoff Ices and Snow Peach Peak flavored Boone's. And she just does it all. And he's like, she has a headache, and he's like, go to the infirmary.
yeah, because I can't concentrate. What was she said? I can't concentrate on
Oh,
something.
they were gonna do like
Yeah.
chromatography or something like that. She's like, I can't look at flashing lights.
hmm
I have a
Um,
headache.
this is another reason why I couldn't figure out if the movie was in the 70s because Boone's Farm was big in the 70s back when I was in college and in high school. So
I
just
think
saying.
Boone's Farm remains a high school
High school.
staple, a
That's good to
timeless,
know. That's good to
timeless high
know.
school staple.
So, by the way,
Uh,
and she says, doesn't Juno say the best flavor is the
she's like,
strawberry
well,
or
she's
no,
like,
no, the
I've
peach
heard that the Snow Peak Peach is a really
is
good flavor of Boone's Farm.
it's Strawberry Hill, folks. Just letting
Okay,
y'all know.
good to
It's
know. Good to
yep,
know.
that's the best.
We're getting the good.
This comes from a connoisseur.
There we go. Recommendations.
That's right.
Jim's like a
I'm a
sommelier.
sommelier of Boone's Farm. So don't try this at home. I'm a trained professional. So
Yes. So Juno goes home and she is calling Woman Now to schedule the abortion with her hamburger phone. And I love this because she's calling to schedule an abortion, but she's like, oh, hold on. I'm on a hamburger phone just to shake it
I
to
guess
like
yeah,
hear them.
the reception's not very
Yeah, I
good.
guess the pieces inside don't like stay put on the hamburger phone, but it was just like such a funny contrast of like what she's doing and like, hold on, I'm
Uh-huh.
on a hamburger phone. But she schedules her appointment. Like, I'd like to procure a hasty abortion, please. I think is how she words it.
Yeah.
And they ask, how long have you been sexually active? And like this also sticks in my head. I think about it like every time I go to the doctor, they ask questions like that. Because she's like, the term sexually active, is it like a switch? Like, do I deactivate one day? And she's like, I know Bleecker went live that day, as in he was virgin until they had sex. But I do like that is a thing I think about every time I am like the doctor like asks questions like that or it's on forums or something like that. It's like this is like a weird if you like think about it more the way she's thinking about it, like it is a weird term.
Well, so I can just I've never thought about this till just now. I've never been asked that question in a doctor's office.
Well,
I'm serious. I honest to goodness, I cannot remember ever being asked this question at a doctor's office. So once again, gender bias. So
yeah, yeah. Then we get to meet Juno's family. Oh, I didn't say her friend Leah is played by the actress Olivia Thirlby. I think this was the first thing I ever saw her in, but she's been in a lot of like small parts in a lot of things since then. Like I think you've probably
she's
seen her
very
around.
familiar looking. So
Hmm. She was in she had a small part in Oppenheimer, the movie No Strings Attached, Dread, which is like I think the more recent like remake of Judge Dredd,
Judge Dredd.
uh Chappaquiddick, the movie about Ted Kennedy leaving a woman to
Mm-hmm.
drown.
Mm-hmm.
The TV show Why the Last Man. She also very recently, I'm a Law and Order universe person, so Law and Order organized crime. She was a detective working with Elliot Stabler.
I thought you were going to tell me that she was on SVU.
She was not on SVU, although she might have been on an episode someday, but she was definitely most recently, like as recently as like a couple weeks ago on
Oh,
organized crime.
okay. Very okay. So in
Yeah.
that in the realm of the universe, then
Yeah, she's
okay.
in the Dick Wolf
Uh,
television universe. Yes.
gotcha. Okay.
Juno's parents. So first we meet her dad, Mac. He's a veteran and he's an HVAC technician. He and her mom divorced when she was a kid, and the mom lives in Arizona with her new husband and three replacement kids and sends her a cactus every Valentine's Day. And just like the way she describes this, like, ooh, thanks, mom. The prickles only sting a little bit more than your abandonment or
Abandoned.
something. Um, Her dad is played by J.K. Simmons, who I think is an actor everyone knows. Even if you've never seen any of his TV shows or movies, you've seen him on the We Are Farmers. Bum, 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 bum. The Farmers Insurance commercial. He's also the yellow M&M voice.
I did not know that.
Since
I did,
1996, he's the yellow
really?
M&M. Hmm.
and the checks just keep rolling in.
He
So,
is right, like all just those two things. He doesn't have to be in a movie ever again.
well, he
Really.
was always on Law and Order as a psychiatrist,
Mm-hmm.
for the longest time, and then he
Yes.
won an Academy Award.
Yes, for the movie Whiplash, where he was the mean music teacher. He was also
Teacher.
nominated for playing William Frawley in Being the Ricardos. So it was Aaron Sorkin made a
Oh,
movie about like the making of I Love Lucy. So he played the actor who played Fred Mertz.
Fred Mertz. Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
William Frawley. I had to think because in my mind I just hear Vivian Vance and William Frawley. So he
hmm,
played William Frawley.
yeah,
But he's also been he's played Santa in a couple movies. He was Santa in
yeah.
the movie
He,
Claus and recently Red One with The
Red
Rock and
one.
Chris Evans. I also think of him for me like J. Jonah Jameson from the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah. Great
Um,
laugh, by the way,
yes.
as J. Jonah Jameson. So,
Yes. He was also in like La La Land, Burn After Reading. He was on the show Oz. So my man has been working steadily. You have definitely seen him somewhere.
somewhere. Well, like you said, if nothing else, he's on the
Farmers Insurance.
farmers
Yeah.
insurance commercial. So,
So, Juno's stepmother, Bren. Her name's Brenda, but she always calls her Bren or
man,
Brenda. Bren owns a nail salon and is obsessed with dogs. They don't have any dogs because Juno's allergic to their saliva. She's played by Allison Janney, who we've met before. She's going to move up the leaderboard. And I will also say for our listeners who have listened a few times, I have begun the work of making a spreadsheet so that we can track all of the repeat actors,
and also writers, right,
writers and directors too.
and
Yeah.
directors. So yes, so
Yeah. So I'm going to start with actors because it's going to take a while to get it established. Once I get it established, I'll just update it and it'll be easy. But Allison Janney this is her second one, and there's a few other, at least one other thing on the list.
she's on one of mine on my list.
She might actually be in two more on my list, so she might leapfrog above Gene
She
Hackman and Denzel.
she very
She might.
well.
So
So
Allison Janney, we met her previously in Drop Dead Gorgeous, where she was also great. She was on the show The West Wing, the show Mom. She won an Academy Award for playing Tanya Harding's mom in I, Tanya. She's also in The Help, Hairspray, 10 Things I Hate About You, lots of other things.
mhm.
So Juno's sitting down with her family for dinner and she talks about her accomplishments of the day. We're drinking like a giant blue slushy. And then Bren is like, Juno, did you barf in my urn? And like cut to a clip of her barfing in the urn. And she goes, I would never barf in your urn, Brenda.
Brenda. Oh, because she said there was this blue stuff or
She goes, there's blue shit. I mean, blue stuff in it.
stuff.
Also, because we don't see her yet, but there is a 5-year-old at the table. Because then Juno goes, maybe LB did it. And it cuts to this like funny looking little 5-year-old, and her name's Liberty Bell, and she just is putting a metric ton of bacon bits on a baked potato. And then dad is like, Liberty Bell, if you put one more bacon on that potato, I'm gonna eat you for dinner or something. And they all just laugh. It's
Laugh.
like cute. They're like a cute little weird, nice
Yeah.
family.
And I'm guessing that Liberty Bell is the child of Brenda and
Yeah, and
Mac.
the dad,
So
yeah.
yeah,
She's a little
so
half sister, yeah. So love an age gap. Their gap is like 11 years though. Not as they can't
yeah,
touch my almost 17 years, but that is like the similar situation that like of
still in double
my
digits
family.
though, because there's
Still
they're
double
in.
digits.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
So
Um I love later they talk about Liberty Bell being at her like skater tots like ice skating and she was like they shouldn't let them skate. Like
yeah, 'cause she says, "Mom," or didn't she? That is Brenda, or she goes, "Liberty Bell can't skate." It's
yeah.
like,
I think she would be talking to her dad because the dad's like, "Oh, Brenda's with LB at the
at her
skating."
skating, the skating
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, she can't
So
skate.
such a funny family, but I think it's like it's a nice. You get the impression though that there's real affection there. They're just quirky.
Yep.
So Juno's going to the abortion clinic, and there is a single protester outside the abortion clinic, and it happens to be someone she knows. It's her classmate Su Chin. And she just like sort of strikes up conversation. She's like, "Oh, have you done this like homework?" And she's like, "Oh, I have trouble concentrating." She's like, "Oh, I'll sell you some of my Adderall. Like I'm off the pills now." And Juno's like, "Oh yeah, that's good." And she describes a girl who like took too many pills and went crazy. And the girl's like, "I heard that was you." And then
And it was Sue Chenzer protesting about
yeah,
people getting abortions. So
yeah.
yeah,
So then when Juno like walks past her, she's like, "Your baby has a heartbeat and can feel pain and has fingernails." And like the fingernails thing is what Juno's like, "What?
I know. She's like,
Fingernails?"
fingernails? Really?
Yeah. I want to just say, I looked it up.
And
It's not true.
what?
So at 12 weeks, 11 to 12 weeks, the nail beds of a fetus form. But they don't have
Okay.
like their nails start to grow at week 12, but they have like full nails not until like week 34.
Oh, okay.
So like nails that cover your nail bed the way that we think of now. That's not until
Okay.
the end. So like they have the capacity to start growing nails. And I don't even think she said it's been 2 months, so she's like maybe 10
Eight week,
weeks,
maybe 8 to 10
eight,
weeks.
8 to
Yeah.
10. So
Mm-hmm.
she's not even there yet, first of all.
So Sue
Um,
Chen was giving out bad information.
yes, I looked up all of it.
Uh,
The capacity for pain, so the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology says, to feel pain, you have to have like a nervous system, right? Like that's
mm-hmm.
how you feel pain. That's not there until 24 to 25 weeks. And there is cardiac activity at 6 weeks. This is when like heartbeat bills, you hear heartbeat bills. There's like a little flutter. It's cardiac activity, but you don't have a heartbeat, like a full heartbeat. You don't have like a heart that is beating
Mm-hmm.
until 17 to 20 weeks. So just saying, I just want to fact check. Because
Gotcha.
that actually, this part of the movie is a source of some basically like pro abortion, anti abortion people were both like, wow, this is great. And also, this is bad. So, this is like the part of it that has some controversy involved.
Okay.
And it's actually something Diablo Cody was like, kind of where things are now. Like, someone asked her about this like a couple of years ago, and she was like, I like wouldn't write it again now because like we're in a very different like climate. And she's like, I never set out to be like, oh, I'm making like a pro-life like movie. That's not it. It's just like a person who made choices, and like these happen to be the choices that she makes, which we'll talk about in a second. But like people, she said that like Diablo Cody went to like a Catholic school, and like the like head nun from her Catholic school was like, I'm so happy you made a movie in accordance with our values. And she was like, oh my God, that's not what I meant to do.
That wasn't my intention all
That was
along.
not what I was going for. But
Right.
yeah, so I say that to say, just so people, if a Sue Chin is saying things to you, Google it because it might be wrong. Probably
Okay.
are. So Juno goes in though, and the girl at the front desk, this reminded me of Saved too, when she was like, welcome to Woman Now, blah, 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 blah. Please put your hands where I can see them and surrender any bombs.
And the person at the desk, please.
hmm Oh yeah,
Yeah.
she's like
Yeah.
very like she's like the like who people would like stereotypically think would be, right? She's got like piercings and like colored hair and like
And
all this stuff. And she,
yeah, kind of goth looking, sort of, kind
yeah,
of. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. She asks for Juno's name. Juno says Juno McGuff. And she looks at her and like Juno's like internal monologue slash narration is like she thinks this is a fake name.
Fake name. Yeah.
And then it's so funny too, because then she's like, "You want a condom?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm off sex now. Thank you." Ew, and then she's like, "They're boysenberry flavor. They make my boyfriend's junk smell like pie." And she's just like, "Okay." But then
Whatever.
yeah, you can tell that Juno's just like very uncomfortable in the place because she's starting to sit down to fill out paperwork, and it's like, and I think this is a sensation that's maybe relatable, right? When you're in a state of like anxiety, she can like, she's attuned to like every sound, like someone scratching their face, someone tapping their fingers, like she can like hear all of it. Like it's like
And
amplified in her
as
brain.
good as just that was the word I was going to say. It's amplified. It's like
Yeah.
it's right
And it's
there.
like sensory overload. And she just like storms out, basically, goes running out. Suchin's like, "Thank you.
Your baby will thank
Your
you.
baby will thank you." She goes to Leah's house because Leah was actually going to pick her up. And she's like, "I
Right.
couldn't do it. I'm going to stay pregnant and then I will give away the baby." And Leah's like, "But you then like you have to be pregnant and you're going to like start showing and like what if people are like mean or like upset with you?" And she's like, "I think it'll be okay. I hope like it'll be fine." And then she's like, "I gotta find someone to give up the baby to." And Leah's like, "Oh, you should look in the penny saver." Like, the penny saver.
They put ads. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. She says there's ads.
Yeah, I would never be like, the parents I want for my baby are in the penny saver. And they're going through them and Leah's reading them out. Juno's rejecting them. Oh, no, 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 those people, I want a little bit of an edge. Uh,
Yeah.
One person, they already have like a bunch of kids already and they want to complete their family. She's like, "No, that's a cult. They're greedy. They already have kids." And then there is a picture of a couple and she's like, "Them. Like they're perfect." And we learn they are Mark and Vanessa Loring. We'll meet them a little bit later. We don't meet them yet. So next we just see Paulie is in his room looking at Juno in the yearbook, admiring her, holding on to her underwear, which he still has from the night they had sex. But his mom does not like her. I think
No.
she says like she's just different. Back at home, Juno has to spill the beans to Dad and Bren. And she's like pacing and she's all on edge and they're like, "Are you on drugs? Do you need money?" And she's like, "No." "Were you expelled?" She's like, "I think the school would call you if I was expelled, Brenda." And then finally she's like, "I'm pregnant. I'm gonna give it up for adoption. I found a couple in the penny saver." And they're like, "What?" And the dad is like, "Who is," or she's like, he says something and she misunderstands the question.
I don't know. Does she misunderstand or does
Or
she
she doesn't want to say.
deliberately?
He's
Yeah,
like,
she does. She deliberately avoids
yeah, he says like,
He's
"Whose is it?" or something. She's like, "Oh, it's mine," or like whatever.
or what biz? Wait a minute. How does he put it? But yeah, but it's like no,
She deflects and he's like, "Who's
he
the
has to.
father, Juno?"
Yeah.
And she says it's Polly Bleecker. And he's like, "I didn't think he had it in him."
It's,
And
I know
she says,
he looks at Brenda and Brenda looks at him and he's like, you know, who knew?
and Juno says, "I will have you know, Polly is very good in chair," which was funny to me. Um, and she's like, she's obviously reached out to the Lorings already. Like, they want a kid, they have a lawyer. She's gonna go meet with them next week. Like, she's not ready to be a mom. And the dad's like, "Of course you weren't. You forgot to give LB her breathing meds." And she was like, "That was one time. And if you recall, she did not die." Just like, this is just like, it feels like how, like, I don't know, like me and my friends talked.
Okay.
Um,
I did get to. I mean, it wasn't like they started yelling and
yeah.
and cursing and stuff, and like because you see some other movies where
Hmm.
it's like this is the worst thing since the crucifixion of Christ and everything else has gone wrong and now our world's come to an end.
Yeah. Yeah. And they actually kind of both jump in. Like, Brenda's like, "Okay, you need prenatal vitamins. They're actually going to be great for your hair and nails."
Hmm.
Dad's like, "I'm
Yep.
going to come meet you, meet the couple with you because I don't need you getting ripped off by a bunch of baby starved wing nuts." And then he says the truly devastating thing, when he says, "Boy, I thought you were the kind of girl who knew when to say when," or something like that.
Yeah.
She says, "I don't know what kind of girl I am." I just wrote, "Ouch."
Yeah. It's
Because
just
that's the I'm not mad, I'm disappointed,
disappointed. Yeah.
which is
That's the
worse. It's
It
the
is.
worst
Oh
thing.
yeah, yeah. It's okay for somebody to be mad at you, but for somebody to say you let me down, it's that's the tough part.
Yeah, yeah. So she and Leah run up. I do appreciate that her friend Leah was there. That's
Leah
like,
was there for moral support. Yep.
I think if this happened to one of my friends, this is how we would have done it too. Yeah, especially
You had your wingman.
Yeah, I'm like thinking of like certain, it depends on the parents because there's some people that would have reacted better than others.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, gotcha.
but honestly, that's probably what would happen. We would probably tell, depending on who it was, like they might tell someone else's parents first and then like get advice on how to tell their parents.
Okay.
But yeah, they go away and Dad and Brenda's are talking like, I was hoping she was expelled or into hard drugs.
So,
And he
yeah,
said,
that's where I was going. That's
yeah.
where I was thinking. I didn't expect this.
He says he's gonna punch Paulie Bleeker in the wiener next time he sees him. And then it's time for the visit. So they go in their old blue van.
I think it's a Chevy Astro van. I think is what that
Yeah.
was back in the day. So it sort of was futuristic for then, but now
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
pretty dated.
And then you can kind of cut back and forth between Vanessa, who's the woman, is just like making everything perfect, right? You
Oh
see her
God.
like dusting and arranging and like
I like how she
spraying.
spreads out the magazines, and then,
Hmm.
like it's like for a shoot in Good
Right,
Housekeeping.
right. It reminds me of like the montage scenes in like The Devil Wears Prada when they're like prepping the room for Miranda Priestley
Yeah.
to come in.
Mm.
Um, so we meet her and Mark, her husband. The Lorings are played by Jennifer Garner and Jason Bateman. Jennifer Garner used to be married to Ben Affleck. They have children. I was just thinking too, she looks super pretty in this movie, and also good for their oldest child who looks just like her.
But just like her, yeah. So just and as a personal comment, as an aside, Ben Affleck is an idiot. So just saying.
Yes,
So
yes. Also, Jennifer Garner from West Virginia.
yes, good, good old West Virginia person.
Hmm.
So yeah,
So, Jennifer Garner has been in kind of some of the bigger things. Alias, Daredevil. This is where she
Daredevil,
met Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck, where
She
she
played
played
Elektra.
Elektra,
Yeah, then
and
she
then
was in
she
the
was in her
spin-off
own.
movie, Elektra, which
Hmm.
was very bad. Um, she was in I Love Her in 13 Going on 30.
Yes,
Which is funny because you were saying when we talked about this, you were like, some people don't like her. And I was like, I think everybody my age likes her because of 13 going on 30.
13 going on
We all like
30.
13 going on 30. Pearl
Plus,
Harbor.
what's in your wallet?
Yes. Yes. She's also in the Capital One commercial. See, these people are rolling in dough.
It's all about the Benjamins.
Yes.
So,
More recently, she's been in Love, Simon. She was in Dallas Buyers Club with Matthew McConaughey and Jared Leto.
hmm.
So lots of things. Ghost of Girlfriend's Past, also with Matthew McConaughey. Jason Bateman has been on television since he was a child. Uh,
Forever.
but I think probably biggest things, Arrested Development, Ozark, more recently his television show, but
Mm.
he was in like the Horrible Bosses movies. He's a voice in Zootopia, Hancock, Up in the Air, The Change Up. He was in the movie Air about the Nike shoes.
Oh, Beth, yeah.
This is Where I Leave You is another movie I like. He was in this Netflix movie I watched over Christmas called Carry On. That was like a dumb action movie, but he's the bad guy in it.
Oh, really? He's a bad
Yeah.
guy?
Hmm.
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
see Jason Bateman as a bad guy. You know what I mean? He's
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
But he's pretty good at it in that movie because I think
Oh,
he has
okay.
that sort of like snarky quality
Yeah,
he
oh
can
well, yeah, he can.
tap
Yeah.
into. That's like, okay, here's what we're gonna do, or I'm gonna kill you.
Oh,
Is
okay.
sort of like his vibe. Uh, he's also in State Farm commercials now. Have you
Is
ever
he?
seen him? It's like when you want Batman, but you get the Bait
N-
Man.
no, I haven't seen
Yeah,
that one. No.
he's
Oh
in a
gosh.
couple of them. Yeah.
I have to look for that.
It's like there's one where he's like it's clearly supposed to be like poison ivy, but he's just like getting poison ivy. He's like, "Oh man, wow. That really is itchy, isn't it?" So anyways, they meet them and their lawyer, who is the most severe looking woman with the
Oh
most
my
severe
goodness.
German, Goethe Raus, which sounds like honestly, I've been listening to a podcast about like 1933 Germany. Like, if they said she was a person in like the rise of the Nazi Party, I would If they said someone named Gerta Rouse, I would be like, oh yeah, of course.
Wasn't
Um,
she named Glorious Bastards? Gerda Rouse?
right? But it's so funny because they're like incredibly serious, right? Because this is a serious thing. They're trying to like get her baby, and Juno is just like, it's showtime
Miss
at the
Miss
Apollo,
Glib. Yes,
like
it's
cracking jokes
one.
left and right.
The one-liners are just flying.
Yes. And the line that made me laugh the most is where she doesn't really say anything because she says her name's Juno and Mark is like, oh, like the city in Alaska. And she just goes, no, and says nothing else. There's no explanation. Just
No,
no.
no.
And she keeps making jokes. So her dad is like, sense of humor, one of Juno's many genetic gifts, which made me laugh too. So she lets him know she's 12 weeks along, due May 4th. Again, she's 12 weeks. So those things that Su Chin was telling her about,
Got
lies,
it. Got
lies.
it. Uh,
Uh,
Propaganda.
and God, she says some things that I'm like, God damn it, Juno. Like she says that some of the most thoughtless things to Jennifer Garner. Because Jennifer Garner,
Oh,
you can see from Jump that she's like, she wants a baby like more than anything in the
oh
world.
yeah, yeah. This is the end all.
Yeah. And Juno was saying something like complaining about how it feels and her um and Jennifer Garner says something, oh, my friends say like the first few months are the hardest. And she's like, no, but it's like, oh my God, I gotta do all this stuff. You're lucky it isn't you. And it's
I
like,
know, and
oh God,
I know, and
you
you can
know.
see the look on her face, Jennifer Garner's face. It's like it's like she went because she can't have children.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the whole
They've been
idea.
trying for years.
Yes. So
So yeah, Juno like makes these little comments that she does not think about at all, but it's like for Jennifer Garner, it's just like a dart to the heart, and it's like you could see it, which is why I think she is like very good in this movie because she like keeps it together, but you can
hmm
see always like the like, ooh,
yeah,
ouch.
the little signs of yeah, the depth of her, I won't say despair, but the depth of her feelings about this whole issue. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but
So
I wouldn't you expect a 16-year-old girl though to be maybe sort of, you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like it's
blind to that?
realistic.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like not saying things to intentionally hurt her, but just like saying, "Oh,
Hmm.
well, you have no idea. Like, I got to pee every 20 minutes, and and all
Yeah.
this other stuff, and
Yeah.
I feel like I've swallowed a bowling ball, and
Yeah. It's just like being, and I think when I was 16, I would have said things like that too. But now I'm like 35 and I have like friends who like, are trying to have kids. And so it's like, oh
yeah,
God,
yeah,
Juno. I
yeah.
literally wrote in my notes, I wrote, oof, oof,
Oof,
Juno.
oof, oof. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Little
So,
harsh there.
yeah, way harsh, Ty. Uh, but they talk about kind of the logistics. Juno wants a closed adoption. She's like, I don't want to know. You don't have to send me pictures. I don't want any of that.
Oh yeah, I don't
They'll
want to
pay
know
for,
anything about the baby or nothing.
yeah, they'll
Because
pay for the,
she actually keeps calling it or the
yeah.
thing. That
Hmm.
I'm going to
Yeah.
have this thing, and then I'm
Give
going
it
to
to
give you the
you.
thing, and then I'll never see the thing.
Yeah. And she doesn't want any they like agree they'll pay for her medical bills. And they're like, "Do you want other compensation?" She's like, "Oh, like no. I
I
just
know
like
it's
want it to be loved."
yeah, it's because yeah, it's like when they bring that up, and then it's like the lawyer says something, and then she goes, "No, like that thought had never crossed her mind,"
Yeah,
which
she's like,
is
"Oh my God, like not at
yeah,
all." Which like I
and
think is nice. It speaks highly of Juno because like even if she's like a dumb kid and says some thoughtless things and there's later in the movie where she's very immature and like obnoxious, but like she's not like she's still like a good-hearted person.
well, and to me, I also give credit to like both her dad and her stepmom is like because they're not saying like, well, if you're going to make a deal, you should get something out of this.
Hmm.
Like as long as they take care of the medical bills, then she's good.
Yeah. She says something like, I'm in high school, I'm ill-equipped to
Yeah,
like be a mom.
yeah. This is yeah.
And
It's a win-win for to her.
yeah, exactly. And again, as they're talking, you can tell like Vanessa wants to be a mom so bad. Like she's like asking how sure she is. I think that
Yeah,
might be
she's like,
later,
"Are
but like
you?" No, I think it is in this one because she's
she's like,
asking her like,
I'm
"Are you
104%. She's like, are you like 80, like
80?"
75? She's like, I'm
Yeah.
104% sure. And Mark's just like, oh, cool. So you
Hmm.
get that
He's
from the beginning. Like Vanessa's like, "Oh my God, this is like all I ever want in the world." And Mark's like, "Cool, yeah,
yeah,
right."
yeah. This is wonderful. This is
Hmm.
just so good. And
Um, Juno goes up to the bathroom because she has to. She's like, "I'm peeing like Seabiscuit," and then like, first of all, the pictures of them going up the steps in like the white turtlenecks. I was like, "What the hell?"
well, and it's like stop motion photography. It's like, just one
It's like
shot
a
after.
bunch of them in different poses along
Yeah,
the way.
I know it's not like one picture of them, like, as a couple or whatever. It's like, oh, let's do 50 shots, in this one session, and we're just going to put them all up on the wall. So,
Yeah. Judo also relatable because she's the bathroom that they send her to is seems to be like their master bathroom. And so she's just
oh yeah, because the other one's being worked on or something, they
yeah,
said, or yeah. So,
downstairs bathroom's under renovation. So she's just
and
up there picking up
oh,
creams, putting them on
I
her
know.
face,
I
touching.
said she's like sampling all the cosmetics, and even I even wrote down when they go to visit, it's like, oh, swanky neighborhood, it's like
Yeah, it's like fancy. So they live in like it takes place in Minnesota. They live in like I think like a smaller town in Minnesota and the Lorings live in St. Cloud.
right, which
It's like I
is
guess like a bigger
bigger part of.
town compared to where they live. So
Oh, I did like at
then
the beginning. I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
I wrote a comment. You were talking about Juno being glib and stuff at the very beginning. She says, Jennifer Garner said, "Oh, can I get you all anything to drink or anything?" And Juno goes, "Maker's Mark, straight up."
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, and he goes, "She's kidding."
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's when he says the sense of humor, one of her
Yeah.
genetic gifts. Uh, but as she's up going to the bathroom, I think Mark comes up to be like, "Are you good?" Because she's up there for a while because she's
Wow,
messing
yeah.
in their stuff. And then they talk about music, or she sees his like music room where he has a bunch of guitars and stuff. So he used to be in bands and like tour, and now we learn later, but he writes jingles for commercials. So that's how like he makes his money. But he clearly like is yearning for the rock star life. But
Oh,
so
yeah.
he lets her play his guitars and they're talking about the best years. He's talking about like 1993 is the best years in music. And she's like, no, it's 1977. God, you had to be there. And he's like, you weren't born. Like, um, and then it's funny because they're up there just like playing guitars and like Mac is downstairs just like awkwardly talking to Vanessa
And Goethe.
and Gerda Rouse because I think she's like because Vanessa's like, oh, I want to be a mom so bad. Have you ever felt like something's just a calling? And he's like, heating and air conditioning. She's like, there you go.
Yeah. Mhm. Um,
It's so awkward. And then um Vanessa like comes up and she's like, hello, what are you doing? So they come back down, and then I think they're getting ready to leave, and that's when she's like, are you sure? How sure? How sure? Because it's clear that like things have fallen through before.
yeah.
Like this has
But
happened.
yeah, that they had at least once it didn't go well or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
she's gotten her hopes up before and it hasn't worked out, and she doesn't want to do that again. Um, and then they leave, and she's like so happy. She's like hugging Mark and is like sort of like
uh-huh.
making like a little excited like squeaking noise. Um, then on screen we see Winter.
Oh yeah, we're in a new season. That's yeah.
Yes, that's how we uh move through. The song playing now is I'm Sticking With You, originally by the Velvet Underground.
Oh, okay. Was that Lou Reed?
Hmm. Yeah. It
Boy,
goes like, I'm sticking
still
with
have it.
you, 'cause I'm made out of glue. Anything that you might do, I'm gonna do too. At this point, obviously Juno's showing, so it's common knowledge that she's pregnant. I love you see Polly running and this little like Indian kid on the team is like, did you know that Juno's pregnant? Did you know that it's yours? And he's like,
Yeah,
yeah, I know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he's, you should grow a mustache. And he's like, I can't. And then the kid is like, I'm gonna stop wearing underwear to raise my sperm count. And he's like, okay.
Yeah. I know
Um,
some of these are the oddest conversations. So
they are, but I do think that that's
I think that's how teenagers sort of,
teenagers.
yeah,
Yeah, like
just
especially like everyone is just like I think when you're a teenager, like everything feels very consequential. And when you look
yeah.
back, you're like, that did not matter at all. But like at
No,
the moment,
it
it's
might have.
like the biggest thing that's ever happened. Like everything. It's like the
Well,
biggest thing that's ever
well,
happened.
because it's also new.
Yeah.
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 So
You're
it's
like
like it.
the hormones are surging, your
Yeah.
brain's not developed, stuff's just happening.
Hmm.
Um,
And it seems like everything is the first thing, the first
hmm
time
hmm
because it is, the first
Yeah.
time you fall in love, the first time you have a fight, the first time you whatever,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
just say things, yeah,
Yeah,
I
and it's
still
like also I feel like there's this thing when you're like a teenager that's like you like think you're like an adult and you just like say things that you've like heard. Like that kid has heard
yeah,
like you should not wear underwear to like increase your sperm count
increase
and
your
he's like
sperm count,
that's a good thing. I should do that. And
yeah,
it's like you don't know what
so
that means. Like
right, or even why you would or why you
right.
should, so yeah, are you
Right.
planning
You
on
also you
making
don't need to
babies?
do that. You're like 16.
Yeah, exactly, so
But so Juno's showing now and she's getting very judgmental looks.
oh yeah, yeah. They're all giving her the stink eye.
Yeah. But Polly is still Polly. He invites her to have donuts at the movies, which is apparently a thing they do. Because I think they say we're going to donut this movie. So I don't know if they
Yeah.
eat the donuts or they throw the donuts. Hopefully
I
they
don't
eat
know,
them.
but he's got a big box of them and they
Got a
look
big
pretty
box of
good.
donuts. Yeah,
Yeah.
but she can't go because she has an ultrasound. Also, she says it like it's so. She's like, yeah, no, I can't go have an ultrasound. And he's like, should I like be going? She's like, no, 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 don't worry about it.
Yeah. Nope.
They go to the
Don't need you.
ultrasound. Nope. They go to the ultrasound. So it's Juno, Leah, and Bren. And the
Yeah.
ultrasound tech is she says something and Juno says she's giving the baby up for adoption and the ultrasound tech is like, "Oh good, that's a relief" or something.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of like, "What?" And Brenda's like, what does that mean?"
Yeah.
And the lady's like, "Oh, well, it's just, like you see so many teen mothers and it like doesn't work out well." And she's like, Brenda kind of verbally lets her have it. She's basically like, "How about you mind your own damn business?" Like she's like, "What is your job title?" "I'm an ultrasound technician." "Well, I'm a nail technician. How about we both stick to what we know? And why don't you go
Exactly.
to night school and learn a real trade?"
Yeah, she's like, and I mean, really stands up for Juno in this. It's
Yeah.
like, just it's got her back.
I
So
love after the lady leaves, Juno goes, "Brenda, use a dick." I love it.
yeah.
And then Juno goes to the Lorings to give them because she now has a picture to give them. And they had asked, like, keep us updated, like give us the ultrasound pictures, let us know about your appointments and like how things are going.
Right.
Um, so she's going, and Mark is the only one there. And this is when we learn that he makes jingles for commercials because he works from home. Vanessa's at work.
Yeah.
And they sit and like listen to music together and like he's like, "Oh, you've never heard this, I gotta make you a mix CD." Then they realize they both love horror movies, so they are
Really
watching
bad
horror
horror
movies to
movies,
get,
by the
yeah,
way, too. Yeah.
like slasher, like
Slasher,
bad
gory
horror
movies.
movies.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
are from the '60s and the '70s because I remember watching the one
Yeah.
he was showing. I forget what the name of it was, but yeah, it was
Wizard
like
of Gore.
Wizard of Gore. Yes,
Yeah.
so seen it. Yeah,
But she's into like Dario Argento, which is a little bit like
more.
Suspiria is I think is a little more
Yeah, a
highbrow.
little more. Yeah, exactly. A little more artsy. I was
Yeah.
going to say,
Yeah.
little more classy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, And then they're talking like she's like, "Have you guys thought of names for the
names.
baby?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, some." Like he says Vanessa for a girl, and she says, "Isn't that a little gay?" And I was
Uh,
like,
uh,
"What?"
no, it's Madison.
Oh, Madison. Sorry.
Yeah,
Vanessa's the person. I literally I have Madison written down.
yeah. No,
It says
but
Madison for a girl. And then Juno goes, "Isn't that a little gay?" It's like, what does that even mean?
I know it was like no, um,
Um, and then Vanessa arrives home and she's like, "Oh, like, is everything good? Like, why are you
yeah.
here?"
What's going on?
And Juno is like, "Oh, yeah, everything's fine. I was just here to give you the ultrasound, and also my stepmom verbally abused the the ultrasound
The
tech."
ultrasound tech, yeah.
Uh, and then we see Vanessa. We see another room. Vanessa is loading up on the baby stuff,
She'd been shopping.
and then Juno's like, "Well, don't you have like a baby shower to get this stuff?" And
Oh
they're like,
yeah,
"Well, it's like hard to have a baby shower in like this kind of situation because it's not like set in stone. Like people don't really like know what to do, basically." And she's like, "Oh, like, do you think I'm gonna flake? Because like I'm not gonna flake out on you. Like this is your baby, period."
right. Yeah.
But someone else has flaked out before. Like they say that like they had something fall through before. And Vanessa very kindly is like, "Get out." But she says, "Your parents are probably wondering where you are."
Hmm.
And Juno can't read the room, and she's like, "Oh no, I'm already pregnant. So like, what else can happen?"
What other trouble can I get into? So
Yeah. So she goes home, and Brenda's there.
it is. She's cutting out dog pictures.
Yes. Also, that reminded me of my babysitter because she used to like let us make collages, but she would like cut out pictures from like the penny saver, like pictures of like little things from like advertisements and stuff, and then she would give them to us to
Did she
make.
cut out the ads of people looking for kids?
No. It was like the ads of like Precious Moments figurines and stuff.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So, but
Okay.
it reminded me of that. Like I had that like flashback when she was cutting dog pictures out. And she's like, "Where have you been?" Juno's like, "Oh, I drove to the Lorings to give them the ultrasound picture." And she's like, "Just like, why don't you send it in the mail? You don't need
Right.
to drive an hour. Like you can't just." She's like, "No, I hung out with Mark. It was all good." And she's like, "You can't just like drop into their house and hang out with a married man. There are boundaries," which I wrote on my notes that he should be upholding, to be clear.
Right.
The
He's the
boundaries
one
should be
should be
upheld
saying, "Hey,
by
Juno, it was nice of you to want to stop by. Why don't you just leave this and you go ahead and go home, and I'll, share this with Vanessa." So,
exactly.
and you
The
take you,
adult married man should be
yeah,
keeping
you don't sit there and like, oh, hey, let me show you this crazy movie
right.
that I
And they're also
watched.
sitting like very close on the couch, like,
Mm, it
side to
so
side.
so Lindsay and I spoke about this before we started recording, and I was getting the vibe that there was something going on here. And then was I wrong? And then, we talked about it a little bit. And so I got the feeling that maybe he was reading more into what this was than what it was. So, and
Hmm.
then you concurred and said that that was I was that was what was being implied, that
Hmm.
Juno was just trying to, like you said, be part, or try to be part of that and everything, but
Hmm.
she didn't understand or realize what Brenda had tried to tell her. You can't do things like that. But
Yeah.
he's like, oh, I think, she's interested in me.
Yeah. So
So,
in this
and
argument with Brenda, Juno's like, you don't even know like me, you don't know what's going on. And Brenda's like, "You can't like do this." Anxious, "You don't know me." And Brenda's like, "I've done so much for you. I know I love dogs, but I can't have them because you're allergic to their saliva. And as soon as you leave, I'm gonna get some Weimaraners." And Juno goes, "Whoa, dream big," which was another line that we used to quote all the time. "Whoa,
did
dream
you
big."
dream big? So
And then she says something like, "Go fly a kite," or something like
go
that.
fly a kite, which instead of like, go F yourself. Because
Yeah.
in the movie, Juno drops some F bombs here and there, throughout the,
Hmm.
the,
Hmm.
the movie.
Yeah.
It's not a PG or, a rated movie. I don't, is it
Yeah.
R?
I think it's
I think,
PG-13.
is it
It's PG-13.
PG-13?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the F-bombs were limited. Juno then she just wants to leave, so she goes to visit Polly. And oh my God, she's so mean about his mom. She's like, she probably used to be attractive, but now she looks like a hobbit. You know the
Oh, I,
chunky one from the Goonies? She said she looks like Samwise. She looks like Sean Astin. I
I
was like,
know it's
dang. And then she like
sad.
races her up the stairs.
I know, to get to Polly's room. I thought that was
Yeah,
kind of funny.
it
So, like,
was. Because she
you
clearly
know,
didn't want her to be there.
no, she didn't want her to, because she obviously feels that it was Juno's fault that all this happened.
Yeah.
So,
Well, she doesn't know that Paulie is the father.
oh, I thought she did.
No, because they say at some point they
Oh,
say that like they particularly didn't tell his parents. So I think she
Oh,
just thinks
oh, I missed
Juno's
that
like
part.
she just thinks Juno's like a hoe. Like
Oh, I missed
she
that.
yeah, they say
Oh, okay. That makes sense then. Okay,
um
got you, got you.
so oh yeah, it's in this scene because she says she talks about him loving orange Tic Tacs, that's his only vice, and she's talking to him about the adoption, and she says her parents won't tell his parents that he's the father.
Oh, okay.
So she doesn't know. She just doesn't like her for her.
For her, yeah.
She's not mad at her for this situation. So, and then this, it's very sweet. Juno's like, "Do you still gonna think I'm cute when I'm huge?" And he says, "I always think you're cute. I think you're beautiful." And she's like, "Oh." And he's like very sweet. And like she likes him too, but she's like pretending that she doesn't like him. And it's
I
so
know.
annoying. This is such a dumb teenager thing to do. It's like, stop trying to be cool.
I know instead of like trying to tell somebody how you really feel, you're like, oh, nah, I'm not really into that, or
And she
I'm not.
starts telling him to date somebody else.
I
And
know,
then
like
later,
she has
spoiler
suggestions
alert,
about who to take to the prom or whatever.
yeah. And then later, she's mad about it. And he
Dumbass.
rightfully is like, "You can't be mad. You told me to do this."
Yeah, and well, yeah, later on, yeah, we'll get to that scene,
Yeah.
when he
She's
talks
so
about
mean.
it.
But she tells her,
He is
I do
kind of
love,
mean.
yeah, when she tells him to go out with this girl, Katrina, and he says she smells like soup.
Soup, and her house smells like soup.
That's such a weird, like, detail, but it is the kind of thing I think that, like, you would say as a high schooler.
Well, if the soup fits,
Yeah. Also, soup is a very broad description, though. Lots of different soups.
true, good
Like
point.
broccoli cheddar, chicken noodle,
But
minestrone, like
later on, though,
French onion.
her friend agrees.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh my God, her house, I went to her house for a birthday party. It does smell like soup."
Smell like soup. Yeah, it's like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, that's for sure. So,
Yeah. We get like little flashes like Vanessa and is starting to paint the nursery and she's trying to pick the perfect color yellow.
oh my God, I love
And
this.
she's like, this is the clearest like illustration of like where they're at. Like she's obsessive. Like she's like, this is like my life's mission. Every detail about it has to be perfect.
Has to be, yep.
And Mark does not care. And like I
But
think, as we talked about, I think best case scenario, he might not have cared about the which color of yellow they paint the.
well, I said it was because she goes, one is custard and one is cheesecake, and he goes, they're yellow. So it's like,
Yeah.
and I told Lindsay that to me, and sorry fellas, but that's what I would said too. I'm not into the. I mean, I became educated after many many years about learning to discern about different shades and stuff. Shout out to my wife. About different colors and so on and so forth. Where I would say purple, she might say aubergine. I don't know. So, or violet, so that sort of thing. But yeah, and then he goes, well, I think it's too early to paint.
hmm And she's like, no, this is like part of nesting. And then she says, like, I bookmarked all the dad chapters in the baby book so you can read them. And he's kind of like,
Yeah,
okay.
right. Like, yeah, you can just tell he's not feeling this.
Nope. Nope.
He's not on the same page.
Definitely not. So next, Leah and Juno are at the mall hanging around and they see Vanessa there. She's there with her friends and their kids and she's playing with one of the kids and Juno's just kind of watching and like Leah's making jokes, but you can tell for Juno this is like meaningful because Vanessa is like playing with this little kid and seems very happy and into it and she's like, "Okay, like this is going to be a good mom. This is."
Yeah, yeah.
And then they bump into each other and Juno's the baby's kicking a lot. And so Juno's like, "Oh, you want to feel it?" And she can't she's like, "Oh, I." She's really sad. She's like, "I can't. I don't feel anything."
I know. I don't feel anything.
And then Juno's like, "Oh, why don't you like talk? You're supposed to talk to them. They're supposed to be able to hear you. So why don't you like talk?" And then she starts talking to it, and it's like a little bit awkward, but she kind of gets into it, and then it starts. She feels the kicks, and it's very sweet because she's like very excited, and I think it's just another moment that like just uh confirms that like she's this is a person who should be a mom.
What and I think like Jennifer Garner does a really good job, I think, of portraying that because it's not so much what she because she doesn't really say anything. It's just the expression on her face and just the look of joy that she gets, for when this happens, because you can
Hmm.
tell she's very disappointed when she doesn't feel it, but then when it does kick, then she's her everything just changes, about her facially and her features.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And then the screen tells us it is spring, and they play the song Piazza New York Catcher by Belle and Sebastian. I don't remember the tune of this one though. Um,
Couldn't tell
I
you,
just
don't
remembered it
know.
has a line that says, "I will be your Ferdinand and you my wayward girl. Elope with me is private and we'll sail around the world. I will be your Ferdinand and you my wayward girl." But I don't remember the tune of that one. That one didn't stick with me as much as the others.
No, didn't
But anyway,
resonate.
no. Juno is at school where they have a bank of payphones.
Yeah.
I was
Is
like,
that
they didn't have those in my school.
I was gonna say, did they have payphones at your school?
No, not when I was in high school.
Okay.
So I'm sure they did at some point. Like you could tell that there was
Yeah, I mean they're I
space
mean
for
they're
them to be there, but they weren't there when I
well,
was
maybe
there.
in Minnesota they didn't get the memo until later on.
Yeah,
So
it's up and it's cold there. They couldn't get cell phones yet. Um,
satellite coverage, cell phone
yeah.
coverage.
So, but it's like, and this is the part that like, especially now at my age, it starts to make me cringe because she's calling Mark and talking about a mix CD he made her, and it's like, ugh,
Oh, I
why are you
know.
talking like this to a teenager? Like, and it's like certainly to her, I'm like, don't talk like this to like a grown man. But again, the
He's the
responsibility's
one,
on him.
right, exactly. He's the one that needs to be setting the boundaries and
Why are
setting
you
the
like
tone.
flirting with a child, weirdo? Um, but she's almost 8 months along now. She's getting bigger. She's eating a lot. Her friend Leah describes her as convex.
When they go through the cafeteria, my God.
She is like,
I, wa-
I think she's like, oh, let's visit Mexico, and she gets a taco, and then she keeps getting some. Her friends like, you're going around the world today, huh? Like,
I wondered, did you guys pay for your lunches when you were in high school like that? When you
we did,
Yeah,
yeah,
I was getting ready to say, where in the hell is she getting the money to pay for this? I guess Mac
right,
must be doing good in the HVAC business. So
right. Maybe they have an all-you-can-eat buffet there or
I don't know,
something.
but man, she's piling it on that tray now, isn't she?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it went up. It was almost $2 by the time I got to high school.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah. So, anyways, it was a lot of food though. She learns that Paulie is going to prom with that girl Katrina who smells like soup, and he asked her, and they're going to dinner at Benihana before, and then they're going to some guy's cabin afterwards. And Juno's like, "No, he's not. He doesn't like her." And Leah's like, "Yeah, he asked her." And Juno is so jealous, pretending she's not.
Uh-huh.
And then she goes to confront Paulie, and she is so mean to him. And
She's
like,
awful.
he's like, "Why are you mad?" She's like, "I'm not mad." And she's like, "Your girlfriend gave me the stink eye." And he's like, "She's not my girlfriend, and that's just the way her face looks."
And they cut to the person, and it sort of does look like that's the way her face
He's
looks.
a little wonky.
She has a little
Um,
wonky eye, but
hmm.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
but I like this part. I hope you go like Polly gives it back to her.
Yeah, because she's saying she's just listing a bunch of terrible things, and she's like, all of these things would be cooler than going to prom with you. And he's like, you're being very immature when you're the one who broke my heart. And she's being mean. And he's like, you'd be the meanest wife ever. She's like, oh, you wanted to.
Right.
She's like, you're just mad because we had sex and I didn't want to marry you. He's like, well, I don't want to marry you because you would be the meanest wife ever. And she's like, I was just bored that day. And he's like, you were not bored that day because there was a lot of stuff on TV and they were playing Blair Witch Project and you said you wanted to watch it and like all this stuff. And he's like, and then he says, I still have your underwear. And she says, I still have your virginity. And he's like, ugh. And she's like, what, are you ashamed that we did it? Because at least you don't have to carry the evidence under your sweater. So she's just like lashing out. Shitty. And which again is like, she is 16.
And she's hormonal. I mean, she's 8 months
She's
pregnant.
she's going through it, right? Like
Yeah. Oh
physically,
yeah.
like people are not being nice to her.
Right.
And she is, to be fair, protecting him. Like the other kids know, but like his parents don't know.
Right, right.
He's not having to deal with the consequences in the way that she is.
Yeah, that's true.
So
You're right.
like, but I do think that she is just being mean and immature. And she's just mad because she wants to like keep him around even though she
Right.
won't admit her feelings to him.
And
She
she
wants to
told him
like
like she told him to ask so and so to the prom.
she told him to ask out that specific girl,
Right. And when he
which
does
he
what he
points out to her. He's like, "You told me to do this. I just did what you said."
right.
But she wants to have her cake and eat it too. She wants him to stick around, but she doesn't want to have to be vulnerable and honest about her feelings. So,
Hmm.
which you know what, listeners, she's 16. Adults do it too. I wouldn't have a job if people could be more vulnerable about their feelings and relationships. But anyways, Juno kind of gets in the car angrily. She's can barely fit at this point. It's a
Yeah.
struggle getting in that van. And she goes to the Lorings to hang out with Mark without Vanessa. And he gives her a gift. It's a Japanese comic about a pregnant superhero. And she's like, oh, wow, this is so cool. And then they listen to music, and she's trying to show him a song, but he knew it because it's a song he danced to at senior prom. And she's kind of like, ooh, you dance with somebody? And then they start like slow dancing. And I was
I
like,
know.
I remember watching this and I was just like, oh, I don't like this at all.
Oh,
Like,
okay. You mean you remember seeing it as a teenager and
yeah,
you
because
felt
I
that
was
way?
just like, even as a teenager, I was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Because then he takes, because first doesn't she put her hands on his shoulders or something?
Mm-hmm.
And then he takes her hands and he moves them. And it's like, no, 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 no. What he should have done was take her hands and say,
Oh,
no, off. I
yeah.
think you should go.
Yes. But instead, what he says is, I'm leaving Vanessa.
Yeah.
And she's like,
Bombshell.
whoa, what? What the hell? You can't do that. And he's like, I thought you would be cool with this. And she's like, no, I want the baby to have like a family that would stay together and not break up like everybody else. And he's like, well, I don't know if I'm ready to be a father. And she's like, but you're old.
Old. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, when are you going to be ready? Like, and, this is what we were taught, like, because he says, like, how do you think of me? Like, why are you over here?
Right.
And that, to what you were saying, like, that to me is like, he thinks she's like pursuing him. And she's just like, I just like being like part of this. She says, I like being like a weird piece of furniture in your guys' life or something like that. Like she likes to be part
Right.
of like this unit.
Yeah.
So like and I will say like for this moment for Juno, I think that there is like a real feeling of disappointment and like sadness when you are like, and this might just be like a woman thing, a girl thing, but like when you think that you're just like a friend to someone,
Hmm.
but they've been like
Saying,
creating
feeling
something different.
something different.
And it's
Okay.
like it's really disappointing. It's like, "Oh, you didn't actually like just enjoy hanging out with me like for me. Like you're
I see what
wanting
you're saying.
something else here. Like
Y-
this isn't
this isn't just a friendship, like
right.
based on
You don't
our
value me as a
common
friend.
interests. Right, right. I see what you're
You
saying.
like want something here and it like feels like icky and really disappointing. So like she thought that they're just cool and that's like
Yeah,
you like
yeah.
music, like I'm coming over here because I'm like I have a relationship with you guys and like we happen to share common interests and like we can talk about it. Like that's cool.
Right, yeah. Hmm.
Like somebody older with like who's like been in a rock band who like has similar taste in music and can share new like music and movies with me. That's cool. Like there is a cachet to someone who's like older than you and like has cool taste.
Yeah,
But yeah, it is I do think that there is a real disappointment though that it's like, oh, this is like
this
this
isn't
isn't
what I.
just like a pure like innocent thing anymore.
Yeah, or just two friends. It's yeah.
Right. Like
They're
we're
seeing
not
it.
just here because we share common interests. Like there is like something ulterior happening. And like that's like, ugh, gross.
Yeah.
Um,
No, yeah. I was gonna say I could see where you would be. Yeah, it would be. like you said, disappointing or
Hmm.
devaluing your you know your relationship. You know that
Yeah.
was yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great way to put it, devaluing it. Because it's like, oh, this like isn't like my friendship isn't like sufficient
Worth
for you. Like,
right or yeah, that it's not enough that we're friends, you know, and
mhm.
that we can talk or so yeah, I could see where yeah you would be a hurtful thing, you know,
Hmm.
that
Hmm. And then Mark is continuing. He says he and Vanessa aren't in love anymore, and Juno is upset. And I think she's a kid. Like this is she feels very much like a kid here. It's like
yeah.
if you're a kid and like you get told that your parents are getting divorced, like that's how she's acting. She's like, you guys have to just try harder. You're not trying hard enough. And
Hmm.
he says, I think this is when he sees it. He's like, you're so young,
Yeah.
which also should make him be like, oh, ew. But anyways.
It,
And she
it,
says, and you're acting like a total a-hole, and your music is just noise, and your shirt is ugly. And she's trying to storm out. And as she's storming out, Vanessa comes in, and she can see that she's been crying. And she's like, what's wrong? And then Mark comes in, and to Vanessa's credit, she's like, what did you do?
hmm picks up
Immediately.
on it. Yeah, like not like why are you here, or you know, Juno, why are you here, you know, and stuff like that. It's like, okay, what did you do, you know?
Yeah. And then so it's awkward because like Juno's trying to leave, but they're like having this conversation like in
I
front of her.
know.
Like she's like, I'm trying to go. And Mark's like, I've been thinking if this is the right thing. And Vanessa's like, I mean, yeah, it is. We're ready to have a
Yeah.
baby. Like we've been trying to do this for years. And he's like, there's more things I want to do. And she's like, oh, what, be a rock star?
Hmm.
She's like, it's not gonna happen. You need to grow up. Actually, I think she says his shirt is stupid.
Yeah, she does because he's got I forget what the shirt what the band
It's like a
is.
band t-shirt or something, but it is
Yeah,
like
it's a band
it does
t-shirt.
feel like he's like dressing more and more like Juno as they hang out
That's
more.
what I thought. He was like trying to dress because at first when we
He's
first
like
meet him,
regressing.
yeah, he dresses like a normal person or a person normal for his age, you know.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden, yeah, he's like trying to be the cool guy, you know, or
Hmm.
whatever. It's please, you know,
Yeah.
give me a break.
Yeah. Vanessa's like, if I have to wait for you to be a rock star, then I'm never going to be a mother. And he's like, well, I never said I'd be a good father.
Oh God, I
And
know
finally, Juno like is able to slip out and she's speeding away in the van and she actually has to pull over because she's like crying, like full crying,
it.
which tips for the
Full on.
listeners, you should pull over. You can't drive when you're that emotional. You pull over.
Well, you can't see very well
You
because of the
can't see.
tears.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Come on, you know.
Safety tip, pull over. Have your cry when you get yourself together, resume. So we all got to do it sometimes. Um and then she she goes to get some snacks and she like kind of lays on the hood of the van to sort of just do some reflection, just stare up at the stars. And then she gets back in the car and pulls up like a receipt and starts writing on the back of it. So, and then she goes back to the Loring's house and she kind of knocks on the door and leaves it. And they're having a conversation about getting divorced because their Goethe Rouse can help them do like a mutual divorce and it'll be like quick and easy and painless. And he's gonna stay downtown. And she's like, "Oh, you're staying in a hotel?" And he says, "No, I'm staying in a loft." And she's like, "Oh, cool guy in a
Yeah,
loft."
I know. It's like it's almost like we talked about you're with someone and you don't maybe realize you know what kind of a person they really are after even
Mhm.
after so many years. But it's almost like she's seeing him now for what he really is. You know, he's you know this or maybe he's tried to hide it from her. You know, this is he didn't want this life after all. So
Yeah, yeah. It's so it's um. But Juno
it's
goes home.
disappointing.
It is disappointing because it's just like I don't ever want to be like give up on your dreams or anything, but like at some point you've chosen a life and you have to like figure out what that life looks like.
Well,
And you need to be honest about it. I think that was
yeah,
the other piece of it too. He wasn't honest about it.
well, that and when you look at like you don't look at what you don't have, look at what you have. It's
Right.
to me,
You're
it's
married
like,
to Jennifer Garner.
I mean, come on, that's like,
Ben Affleck.
yeah, yeah, duh. But and people, oh, you don't understand, like it on the outside, it looks all these. But if in a way, Juno's right. Sometimes you just got to work a little harder. You got to try a little
Mm-hmm.
harder. You know,
Mm-hmm.
nothing worthwhile is ever easy to
Yeah,
me. I mean, that's if I
exactly.
can take one thing out of living for all this time, that's the one thing. Nothing worthwhile is ever easy, whether it's achievement or success or wealth or happiness. It's not easy. You got to work for it.
Right. Right.
So,
And the other thing, like, you wait to tell me this now?
well,
And I mean, he does say, he's like, well, I thought it was gonna take longer to
right,
like find someone, blah, blah, blah. But like, if you weren't sure about this,
you
you should have
shouldn't have.
said something before y'all put the ad in the penny saver.
Well, and listen, I'm guilty of it too. Sometimes you sit there and you just say things to appease people, and then you regret it later on that you weren't honest and open up front. So,
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, having kids is not like, right?
no,
Like, there were times in high school when like someone called me the wrong name and I just didn't say anything. Like, whatever, nothing's gonna happen. If you guys are bringing a baby into it, like, you should be pretty sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You should be 80%,
Yeah, 104 even.
even, even.
So, anyways, Juno goes home. It's a cute little scene. She picks a crocus. She's like smelling it, and she says, "I like this line." She says, "I never realized how much I like being home until I've been somewhere really different for a while,"
It's
which I thought
nice.
was cute. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's true.
She goes in to the kitchen, and her dad's like, "Where you been?" And she's like, "Oh, just dealing with things way beyond my maturity level." And they have a really nice conversation because she's like, I'm not sure if two people can stay together forever. And her dad's like, it's hard, but like it can happen. Like me and Brenda have been together for 10 years and like we still really love each other and like enjoy each other's company. And the best thing is to find someone who loves you for exactly who you are, like good mood, bad mood, ugly, pretty. The right person will still think the sun shines out of your ass.
And he's absolutely right.
Yeah. And it's so cute because she's like, I think I found that person. And he's like, right, me, your
Yeah,
dad,
D
right?
DAD, good old dad.
Because he's like, I'm obviously here for you no matter what, as evidenced by the current situation. And she's like, yeah, yeah, dad. He's like, you were talking about me, right? Right?
Right, right. Yeah,
She's like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
of course.
So then she's like, I gotta go somewhere. And we just see her and Leah like going to Polly's house at night and then driving away. He comes out to go for his run. The song playing is Tree Hugger by Antsy Pants.
Again, not a familiar one to me, but hey,
I don't
I
remember
like
the
the name of the
tune.
band.
Yeah, but it's like flowers said I wish I was a tree. The tree said I wish I could be a different kind of tree. The cat wished that it was a bee. Uh, it's a silly song. But I think are they French? Because there's a whole section that's in French. Et le
Oh,
jackalope a
really?
dit, je voudrais être un yeti. The
Maybe they're
jackalope
Canadian,
says, yeah, pour
French
voler dans les
Canadian.
nuits et m'en aller loin d'ici. It's like to fly at night and be and to go far away from here. Anyways, but there's a note in chalk on his porch that says check the mail, and he opens his mailbox and it's just like a sea of orange Tic Tacs.
They just fall out. I love
Yeah.
that.
And then Juno shows up at the track where he's running to see him, and she apologizes and she says that she's in love with him. And there's a lot of cute lines. Like she says, "You're the coolest person I've ever met, and you don't even have to try." And he's like, "I try really hard, actually."
Yeah,
And she says, like, every time I see you, the baby starts kicking super hard because my like heart is pounding. And they start kissing. And then the song that is playing is So Nice, So Smart by Kimya Dawson, which
Who does other songs I found out after reading on the soundtrack.
mhm.
I do like her friend looks over and says, "You that can lead to what'd she say, early labor or something
Early
like that."
labor.
Yeah, like
Yeah. And then she gives her the finger while they're
yes, kissing.
still kissing. Um, and then well, the next, speaking of, she's at home, and then all of a sudden she starts labor, and the way that she announces it to her family, go Jim.
So she yells down to dad and
Mhm.
he says, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "Either I peed my pants or," he goes, "Is it time?" And she goes, "Thundercats or go," which I took it to mean that it's happening. So
Yes. So we discussed, I at the time that this came out, my friends and I were all like, one day when we're pregnant, we're having kids. That's what I'm going to tell my family I'm in labor. I'm going to be Thundercats go.
so and I told Lindsay, I said when I heard it, I said I I kind of I could see Lindsay doing something like that, not knowing that her friends and her had talked about that. So at some point, I if I get a phone call and I hear Lindsay going "Thundercats or go," then I'll know what that means. So,
Yeah, no. Maybe I need to get like a I'm a little more low key. I'm not much of a yeller, so I probably have to get like a good phrase from like a spy movie or something. That's
oh,
like,
okay,
you know,
uh,
the eagle has
or like
landed.
one of yeah the or like when the way they used to do the codes for the resistance, the
Hmm.
hen is in the coop. The
Yes.
hen is something like that where they the
The hen
BBC
is
would run.
laying an egg. The
Yeah,
hen is
yeah,
laying an egg.
yeah. The egg has been laid.
Yes.
uh,
Something like that. But yeah, they
yes.
go to the hospital. And it's funny because at the beginning, Juno and Leah are like messing around, but then eventually she is in pain and she's such a teenager. It's like some of these moments you're like, she's a child because she's like, can I just have the spinal thing?
Or I like what she calls it, the spinal tap.
Yeah, and she's like, it's called a spinal block, Junebug.
Yeah.
And she's like, ow. And then what's funny is Brenda's like, can my kid have the spinal tap? Um, and she goes into labor, and we hear a song that we'll hear again later. It's Anyone Else by the Moldy Peaches, which is like, this is the song I think I always think of because it's the one they sing at the end, too.
Yeah.
Um,
It's very sweet, I think.
yeah. I don't see what anyone could see in anyone else but you. And there's a whole, rest of the
Yeah.
lyrics, but that's like the refrain.
Right.
But
Uh-huh.
that's playing, and it's a boy. And she says that she didn't tell Paulie because he had a meet, and it shows him at the meet. And first of all, he like breaks a record, but then she's like, he could tell, like he knew, like he finishes the race, and it's like he just like the wind blew a certain way, and he was like, like something's happening, something is not right.
I like it. He just takes off and he runs out of the stadium,
Yeah,
and
I guess that's the advantage of your boyfriend being a cross country runner.
I guess so.
He can just go, just run
Even after
places.
even after breaking a record, he's still got the stamina.
He didn't seem winded at all. He wasn't
Not
breathing
at
heavy.
all.
He
No,
felt a disturbance in the force and was like, I must go.
I must go. I must be
Um,
with my one.
yeah,
My
be with my baby mama here. But we get another little like Juno and her dad are by themselves and he's like stroking her hair and it is like she's a baby. And he
yeah,
says like someday you'll be back here on your terms.
terms. I love that.
Which it was just it's so sweet.
Yes.
But Polly arrives and the dad gets up, gives him space. He just puts his hands on his shoulders. He does not punch him in the wiener, thankfully. And then Polly just gets on the bed and they just like snuggle and they both decide not to like see the baby again because they're
Yeah.
like, I
They don't
think,
want that attachment.
yeah. And they say, Juno says, like in her voiceover, she says, I think he was always hers. And you see Vanessa outside of like the nursery. And then the lady comes out and is like, are you ready to meet your son? And you see Vanessa with the baby like in the room, and Brenda's just watching her, and she's like, "Is this okay? Like, am I doing this right? Like, do I look okay?" And she says, "You look like a new mom, scared shitless." And she's just kind of like looking at her like sweetly, and Juno's in
Yeah.
bed and she's like kind of crying, but she also seems like very happy. Like she's smiling.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's funny, she says it ended with a chair, and it's like this very nice rocking chair in the nursery that Vanessa put together for the baby. And she had hung up, so there's like sort of like an alcove in the wall in this nursery. And when they were talking about the paint before, she said that's where we should put like our first family picture or something. But
Right.
instead, what is there is a note, the note that Juno wrote in the van that night. It's framed, and it says, "Vanessa, if you're still in, I'm still in. Juno."
And
It
it
is
was
like
written
on the
on the
back of
back
a
of a Jiffy
receipt. If
Lube
you leave receipt,
receipt. I
yeah, like
love
the
that.
yellow like carbon copy in like
Yes.
red marker, like, and it's framed like above the crib. And then you see Vanessa with the baby at home. It's very sweet. And then it says summer on the screen, and they're playing another Kimya Dawson song. It's Tire Swing, I think. Yeah.
Is it
It's
tire
the same. They
swing?
played it. They played it before. I took the
Okay.
Polaroid down in my room. I'm
Mm.
pretty sure you have a new girlfriend. And then it's just kind of little everybody living life. Juno and Polly are boyfriend and girlfriend now. And she talks about, I think you mentioned this, that like usually people fall in love and then have a baby, but they did it kind of backwards, but they're not really worried about like being normal.
Normal. Yeah. Also, we see Brenda has her dogs.
Yes, Brenda has dogs now, even though Juno should still be at home, but maybe
I
they're just like,
know. Maybe she just decided to go ahead and get the dogs, but yeah,
yeah,
she has her
don't
little
let them lick her.
Weimar earners. Yeah, so
Yeah. Also, back to sorry, when they were leaving, when Juno was in labor and they're all running out, and Liberty Bell is just standing on the stoop, and Brenda's like, "Oh, Liberty Bell!" and she goes and grabs her to bring her. They
do
almost
we get
forgot her.
do we get the feeling that there's a little something off with Liberty Bell, that maybe Liberty Bell's a little different from everybody? I don't know. It just
I think Brenda says to the ultrasound tech when she's letting her have it, "My daughter, my 5-year-old daughter could do this job, and she is not the brightest crayon in the box."
just saying. So
Saying. So, anyways, at the end, Juno, I think she like rides her bike over to Polly's with her guitar, and
yeah,
then
with her
they
with her
sit and they play guitar together, and they sing the Moldy Peaches song, "Anyone Else." And it's so like that's how the movie ends. It's so
and
cute.
it's very sweet, yeah,
Hmm.
because it's just they fall into this nice little rhythm and stuff. But and
Hmm.
we talked about it briefly, how they're they they obviously had a baby together and stuff, but they're still very kind of shy around each other, and kind
Hmm.
of sweet, and not not like overly affectionate. It's
Hmm.
still
There's still like an innocence despite like obviously
uh,
like, you know.
right, having physical contact. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah, it's almost like the beginning stages of the courtship, as opposed to later on in a relationship.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Yeah.
so
Yeah. So that is Juno.
big thumbs up from me. I got to tell you,
Yeah.
I told Lindsay this is one of the times when I've watched a movie that to review, and usually it happens with ones that she picks, that if I've not seen the movie before, I become involved in just watching the movie because the movie's enjoyable. So
Mhm.
and I have to say, this was a really really good selection, and I can see why you like it now. And I can see you watching it, or seeing it when you were in high school, how because that was your time, and then you felt like
Mhm.
the same time and stuff. But movie still, yeah, it deserved all the kudos and recognition that it got at the time. So
Yeah. I agree.
yeah.
I agree. It still holds up. Like this is the first time I'd watched it. I watched it multiple times like in high school and like in college and stuff. I own it on
Hmm. I
DVD.
can see that. Yeah.
Um, but I hadn't watched it for many years. So like, but watching it now, I
Okay.
still really appreciate it. Obviously, like I said, I have a different perspective on some of it. Like watching the like Juno and Mark, I'm like, oh God, girl, no.
The cringiness.
Yes. And like just some of the things she said, I'm like, ooh, think about what you say. But she's 16, and I'm sure I didn't think about what I said when I was 16. But yeah, I just really enjoy it. I think that like Elliot Page is really like this is a really good performance. And I think like one of the youngest nominees for Best Actress, like I think sixth youngest is what I wrote down.
I did read that, yeah. So, and again, I don't know who won that year, but this was a solid performance, especially
Yeah.
in real life. Elliot was 20 years old at the time, portraying a
Mhm.
16-year-old. But even still,
He's very small, so
well,
like
yeah. But I'm just, but gave a really good performance, and it's not a big movie, by any stretch of the imagination. And then, it could have been just one of your typical teenage angst movies, but it wasn't.
Mhm. Yeah. It's interesting to me, honestly, that this movie was so nominated because I don't think that they appreciate comedy movies as much usually.
I
You know?
agree. Um,
Like this is like I would if this came out now, I would not expect it to be nominated for anything.
no, I agree with you 1,000%. Uh, we really haven't discussed this, but I feel like there are genres that the Academy overlooks: science fiction,
Hmm.
uh, and what I would call blockbuster movies, where they've gotten better and stuff. But yeah, it seems like either you play a real person, a biopic, like you said, you
Hmm.
portray a biopic, or you portray someone with special needs.
Hmm. Or like the saddest shit you've ever seen.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, so devastating, like whatever it may be. But, but yeah. So
Mhm. But I'm really glad that Diablo Cody won for this because I think that this like the dialogue in this movie is like one of the
it's,
defining features of it.
oh yeah, it's very, very sharp, very witty, very, but also not contrived.
Hmm.
It,
Hmm.
like you said, you would say, oh, that'd be something that you would say as a teenager and stuff like that. So they were writing it from, it wasn't like the words of a 40-year-old coming out of a 20-year-old's
Exactly.
mouth.
Exactly. Like some of the things, like when she goes, "Whoa, dream big," like
Yeah.
that exists in the same places in my mind as check out the big brain on Brett from Pulp Fiction. Like that's like the same, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, kind of thing. And like a
Mhm.
teenager would say, like, "Oh, check out the big brain on
Mhm.
Brett," you know. So I think it's good, and I also think the like overall like story and like the pacing of it, like
Mhm.
I'm glad that it skips ahead in time, and I think it just like we get like the most important moments.
Yes, and then yeah, I was gonna say it's not like I said, it's not a big movie like over the top or anything like that, and there's pivotal moments, but not big swings or big dramatic whatever, and stuff like
Hmm.
that. But everything just sort of plays out very nicely and very very quietly,
Yeah, yeah,
and at a good pace. So.
yeah. And I think it's like tender in a way that doesn't feel
Hmm.
cheesy or like schmaltzy or you know what I mean? It's just
No,
like
agreed, a thousand
it's tender
percent.
in a way that feels like true and like earned. Like the feelings that you feel watching it, the feelings that they're exhibiting, it's like, oh yes, this is like
Hmm.
this should be happening,
Yeah, and
kind of thing.
I liked it because, yeah, because like I told you that you see a lot of movies where the teenage romances or whatever, and they end up either going their separate ways or they end up bad, Romeo and Juliet. Uh, so, but this one, it maybe goes against the norm a little bit, or against
Hmm.
the percentages, and
Yeah,
Juno does maybe get to realize that there are couples who can stay together and
yeah,
stay in love or be in love, so,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's not easy.
yeah.
like her dad told her, you have to work at it.
Yes. And I think even if like watching this, even if like Juno and Polly like don't stay together forever, which like they're 16, so like it's fine if they don't.
Right.
Um, it's still there's like value in having had that kind of relationship at the
Relationship, and they
time, right?
they
Like,
survive that traumatic experience of having a child, and
mhm.
and then
And to
and
just like you said, have somebody that feels like the sun shines out of your ass. That's nice. That's a good thing you should have at
no,
some point.
it, it, yeah, it have somebody that no matter what, they can. they can be upset with you. They can be
Hmm.
cross with you at some point, but you know that at when the chips are down and everything, that you know that they have your back. You know,
Hmm.
whatever it may
Hmm.
be. You know that they will be there. They're
Yeah.
not going to quit on you. You know,
Hmm.
so
Yeah. And I
so.
think like I think about it for myself too. Like I had a boyfriend for like a long time, like at the end of high school, beginning of college, and like we grew out of it. Like we didn't want to stay together, but like I think that there is like a value to having like a solid, like nice relationship at that age, because then it's like,
Hmm.
okay, like let's set the bar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right?
and
Like if Paulie is like this with Juno, right? He's like, "Oh, I think you're beautiful all the time, like no matter what." Like
right.
then even if they don't stay for together forever, that's like Juno's like, "Okay, well, can't have less than that."
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, you know,
So,
uh, you
it
can
is a nice it's a nice ending, but again, it doesn't feel like out of place or like
no,
shoehorn.
or
You know, it
yeah,
feels
it's not contrived
natural,
or yes.
a
We
natural conclusion.
yeah, I was gonna say yeah, it got there on its own. It wasn't
Mhm.
forced. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
good selection.
thank you. I'm glad you liked it. This one I'd been like kicking around. I was between this like for the last few weeks. So, um,
Hmm.
yeah, that's that. And you know, we wrap up Pride Month by celebrating Elliot Page. So, go
Yeah,
Elliot Page, who gives a great performance in this movie. A very
very
funny,
much
but
so.
also still like tender and like moving performance here.
Hmm.
Anything else you want to add about Juno before we
No,
leave?
like I said, I recommend it highly if you haven't seen it, you know, regardless of whatever you know, it's a sweet story and then, but without being, like you said, too schmaltzy or too over the top or anything like that. And the performances are very, very, very good. So even
Hmm.
Jason Bateman playing the icky guy, Jason
Yeah.
Bateman delivers. So and
Yes.
I'm a fan of Jason Bateman, so you know I like to
Agreed.
see character. I like to see actors going against character sometimes, and then I think in this, you know, he plays not a monster, but he's unlikable. You know, he turns into unlikable, and then but yeah,
Yeah.
everything is all the little pieces really fit nicely together to me.
Hmm. But yeah, I definitely think that like everybody turns in a good performance in this movie for sure. So
Yep.
check it out. Thank you for listening. Please be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this so you can get all of our episodes delivered to you every Monday when they come out, except for when we take a little break, but pretty much every Monday. You can leave a rating, review, comment. Hopefully it's nice, or else we will send Brenda to let you have it.
He sends you to night school where you learn a real trade.
Exactly. Brenda can verbally abuse you like that ultrasound technician. You can follow us on Instagram at Some of Our Parts Pod. You can see all the movies that we've talked about. You can see little previews of what's to come, and you can see whatever else we decide to post. Recently, I shared some things because it was the 30th anniversary of Clueless. So I shared some little things, and again, the link to our Clueless episode. So check that out. And with that, bye bye.
Take care.